My task this morning is just to basically outline where we feel things are at in the small business economy, to give a bit of a snapshot about the action steps that we're taking to improve that environment and what we still have ahead of us to pursue my vision that Australia becomes the best place, the very best place to start and grow a business. We know we're not there yet, but we believe we are making substantial and meaningful contributions. And that's also why I'm pleased to be here with Tim and Sians. Your policy ideas and insights are very useful for us, and nothing wrong with a bit of evidence-based policy. We often have had times in public life where policy-based evidence has been the way, where a decision's been made and people hunt around trying to find some evidence that might back up that decision. So I rather look for the evidence first and then work from there. It's a novel idea, but we're giving it a bit of a crack. So, but thank you for having me. There are more than 2 million small businesses in the Australian economy, and I was just sharing with our table just how diverse they are. Often you hear a conversation about small business companies, and I'm quick to remind people that less than 1 in 3 small businesses are structured in that way. The vast majority are independent contractors, self-employed, sole traders, operating as partnerships or through trusts. And that appreciation underlines why we need some policy agility to actually engage with and respond constructively to the particular challenges that spread of enterprise structures face, as well as the broader entrepreneurial ecosystem, if I could use that term, within which they operate. And that's where our focus has very much been. And we see small enterprises operating right across the economy in all sectors. And that's something that we also, as a group, need to keep re-articulating. The point I often make as well is that we're not all blessed to have a banking tower, and Davey, thank you for having us at NAB or a mine in our communities. And when we look to what is the economy across our continent, it's small businesses and family enterprises providing that economic vitality and the opportunity for livelihoods where people live. And I think, as our national story, we should never forget that picture, that economic opportunities aren't a gift to a particular community. They are made possible by enterprising people. And that's something we should celebrate and encourage, because through that, we can see vibrant societies and communities having viable economies. And I try and knit that connection together for people when we talk about what the impact is of atrophy in the small business economy, how it has a profound impact on communities. And I think that needs to be more of our national story. Things are changing. Things are changing. I shared with this group previously the challenge that I faced in coming into government as the small business minister. The previous Labor government oversaw what was then thought to be 519,000 jobs lost in small business. A period where there were actually fewer small businesses employing people at the end of that 6 years than was the case when the Howard government left office. The premier position of small business hosting the majority of the private sector workforce had actually changed as well. 52% of the private sector workforce became 43%. And I was realistic about that momentum not being positive, not being helpful, and we needed to arrest that decline and turn it around. We proposed quite a bold strategy to do that. First of all, let's make small business front of mind and bright on our policy radar screen every day. I was critical of the revolving door of ministers. It seemed like you'd get a long list of ministerial titles and then someone under the previous government would have small business tacked on the end. I didn't think that was working for our economy, our communities, nor for good policy development. We changed that. My role's in Cabinet. I'm one of the 20 people involved in the running of our country. And when any discussion is had around the Cabinet table, I can bring the small business perspective to that discussion, to that discourse, and bring to life the real life challenges that small businesses are facing. Secondly, we saw the small business policy space in the industry portfolio. Now, industry does extraordinarily good work, but the paradigm through which they operate sees it work best for an industry where there are homogenous or shared challenges, where an industry program can be put in place, where a set of known measures will deal with a set of known challenges and are very responsive to that specific industry. That's not the story of small business. Small businesses are diverse. That diversity is what I love. or marching many to their own beat, and sometimes to beats we can't even follow. But I love that about the small business community. So what matters most in a policy sense is getting the economic environment right so that that self-motivated personal endeavour and enterprise can take hold in an ecosystem that is nurturing and supportive of their enterprise, not one that's harsh and hostile. So we move the small business portfolio into Treasury, into the economic policy engine room of the Commonwealth Government. That is because that is where the analysis of our economic health, fiscal policy is formulated, tax settings are determined, the way in which the ACCC carries out its role in a competition space, the ASIC's role on the economy, APRA in terms of what's happening in ways such as the availability of finance. That's the small business space. And we were adamant that that's where small business policy should be, led by a cabinet minister. So I'm one of the 2 Treasury cabinet ministers with small business uppermost in our mind. There is some mirth in the media today, and I admit that we have had some fun with it ourselves. Right now I'm also acting Treasurer, acting Finance Minister, acting Assistant Treasurer and acting Parliamentary Secretary to Treasury. So I could have my own ERC meeting right here, right now, and basically I'd be confident I'd get my way. But it does underline the point that we've put small business in the main game. It's not an afterthought, it's not a bolt-on. It is inculcated in our economic strategy and in our story, and it's making a difference. The most recent figures that we have available in terms of business formation are the largest increase in business startups in our nation's history. 2013-14, 280,000 new small businesses across all sectors were created and formed in our economy. I got figures just a couple of days ago. I mentioned earlier the 519,000 jobs lost under Labor in small business. I'm here today to publicly correct myself because the Australian Bureau of Statistics have revisited those numbers. It's not 519,000, it's 485,000. Still an extraordinary loss of livelihoods in the small business economy, seeing that atrophy that I talked about earlier. But I bring good news. And the most recent data that was released earlier this week has been 146,000 new jobs created by the small business economy over the 12 months, the first 12 months of the calendar year 2014-15, 2013-14, I should say. That's the joy of the ABS, the lags are long, and that's what we were just talking about earlier. So we're seeing jobs growth in the small business economy. We've actually seen the private sector workforce share increase as a consequence of our policy settings, and I'm extremely buoyed by that. That's what we're seeking to achieve. Even in terms of the life cycle of small businesses, small business entries are up 18.71%. And the small business exits are down 12.5%. This is a fantastic story, but this is just the beginning. And I won't sing It's Only Just Begun because I don't sing well, but it is relevant to this work that's before us. We have a plan and we are implementing, and it is working. And that's why we have to keep going, not rest on our laurels, keep pushing forward on the work that's ahead of us. The key issues for us are building confidence, optimism, and appetite, so getting that setting right. And also in that, nurturing enterprise ambitions so that young people or not so young people see a career not as an employee, but as one that they make their own economic opportunities, create their own enterprises, and through their entrepreneurship create opportunities for others. We need to celebrate that more. We need to put that more into the national narrative and explain what an extraordinary role small business and family enterprises had on our national story.